Welcome back to 365 Unlimited. We are back with another episode after being gone a long time, kind of taking the summer off to recharge. Us three, we older now, got a lot going on, different jobs, different things we're getting involved in, whether it's sports, whether it's insurance with Carter, whether it's more and more sports with Gannon and myself. We keep finding ways to get involved in our community, get involved with new communities, and it is good to be back. I will say that. And we don't just come back with a boring old episode. We come back guns blazing, action-packed. The NFL season, college football, all of the above is back. Football is back. We are recording this episode. Is it Wednesday? I'm losing track of my days. It is Wednesday, game night, tomorrow night, with the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Gannon, Carter, let's just kind of open this up with who your top teams are to watch. Obviously, we know the Chiefs are going to be up there for the majority of us, but let's talk about some teams that made some moves that are AFC and NFC contenders, and then we can dive into some matchups.
Yeah, man, I just think it feels good to be back with you boys. We're finally back talking some ball. Kind of feels normal, escape reality for an hour here to get on this recording and just kind of chop it up and talk some ball. I think my first initial headline is I'm going to go to the obvious with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll get into some other guys here in a second, but we're witnessing greatness here. Like, obviously, we went through the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era with the Patriots and all that, so to speak, but we got a team that's trying to go for their third straight Super Bowl right now. Like, I know everybody knows it, but like when I hear it on the radio, I think it was just like a week ago, I heard it on a sports talk show real quick. It just like puts it in perspective. Like, holy crap, we are really on the brink of greatness. We already are with Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid and company there. The way they manufacture contracts there, the way they keep their veterans around, the way they keep getting weapons in there. Some question marks with some of the weapons. I think they're young guys, some guys that they brought in free agency-wise. It'll be interesting to see kind of how all that pans out. Injuries, off-the-field issues with a couple of their playmakers there, so to speak. But I think the fun part is across the league is the young quarterback play. There's a shuffle of quarterbacks. Last year we had a lot of backup guys who got hurt, or starters that got hurt and backups came in. Joe Flacco got signed off the couch. Had the Browns in a playoff push there. So those things are fun to watch. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, some other young guys that I'm excited to watch. Cale Williams, obviously, in Chicago. These are guys that are going to be day one starters, bona fide guys, hopefully, for their organizations going forward. There's a lot of pressure on them. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they handle everything else other than just ball, because I think that'll really tell you the character aspect, so to speak, on these guys. And just I'm overall excited to just have a fun landscape, because we can sit here and talk everything for an hour, and half the crap that we're probably going to talk about is not going to happen. It's what we kind of want to happen, or maybe we kind of think, but that's the fun part of the unknown with sports and football specifically.
Agreed.
Yeah, obviously it's super exciting to be back. Football comes so quick, but it feels long, and then the season's done in a blink of an eye. So for this year, I mean, obviously we got a great opening game. We got a Friday game, which I don't think we've had. I can't even remember the last time we've had a Friday kickoff
in Brazil.
game.
In Brazil,
yeah, in Brazil. I'm obviously excited for the young quarterbacks, as Gannon mentioned, but I'm more excited for like the comeback players. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Rodgers. I'm more of a fan of Rodgers now that he's not with Green Bay. I think that's going to be interesting with the Jets. I'm also very interested to see how Kyler Murray and the Cardinals do. I think that could be a huge comeback. He could get comeback, player of the year or whatever. I think Kyler Murray. There's just a lot of drama in the NFL right now. I feel like this offseason there was so much drama with contracts,
still is
with people
Jamar
getting arrested. Left and right players are getting in trouble, and it's gonna change some things up for teams. So I'm excited just for everything to get kicked off. Obviously my Bears, I'm super excited about them, and I'm sure we'll talk, but I'm just excited for the new season, and it's going to be fun, boys.
It is going to be fun. And we've been talking in our group chat a little bit just about how long we've been gone and how it feels good to be back and to be able to sit down and record again. It's not easy taking the time away, because it's not like we don't love this or don't like this, but when things get in the way, sometimes you got to prioritize the things that make you money and keep you going. So,
life happens, baby.
Life happens. But I want to just touch on, before we dive into matchups and who your favorite teams are in the NFC and AFC, just looking up some of the stuff that happened this offseason. I mean, we take a look at a completely new era in New England with Coach Belichick leaving, Gerard Mayo taking his position to be the head coach, a former player under Bill Belichick. Obviously, then you get a shakeup in Seattle with Pete Carroll walking out the door, getting a new head coach, taking the Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL, heading after a national championship to go back to the NFL, this time with the Los Angeles Chargers. The Bears are completely rebranded with a new face of the franchise in Caleb Williams, adding elite weapons in Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, continuing to build that defense, which is full of the youth. And then on top of it, Washington gets a new head coach in Dan Quinn. They take their face of the franchise, Jaden Daniels. The Bills get rid of Stephon Diggs. Diggs goes over to Houston in an already ultra-talented team with C.J. Stroud heading into year 2. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. It's a scary team in Houston.
Mixon.
Joe Mixon on top of that. And don't forget about the aging guy who's been hurt the past couple years on and off. Last year suffered a major blow, but Kirk Cousins signs a mega deal, lands in a new squad with the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously a pretty solid foundation that the Falcons are laying there, bringing in a guy like Kirk who can win them football games, who already had talent on the offense in Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. Now we'll see if they can put that together. Derrick Henry goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Think about that. Obviously think about it 3 years ago, but now you think about it. Obviously he's a little bit older, but Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield, good luck tackling. Speed and power left and right. But on top of that, we can move on to Saquon Barkley going to the Philadelphia Eagles, signing with a rival. That's another terrifying move. If you're in the NFC, it builds up an Eagles team that's already pretty good and makes them even better. And then someone like Calvin Ridley who cashes in with the Titans. And the Titans are a team who brought in a ton of veterans to hopefully kind of see if Will Levis is the guy. So I know that was a lot thrown at you guys right there. Kind of just overall some of the bigger things that happened in the offseason. But if you guys had a favorite move, obviously I think we can guess what Carter's is or was this past offseason. But if you had a favorite move that you can pinpoint for a specific team that kind of maybe doesn't take them over the top but puts them in better position, what would that move be?
It's a good question. I'll start off right now. So I think it's something else why I like the Packers moves, just because that's the Packers is my team at the end of the day. I like what we did with Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, 2 young guys, premium guys of their positions, guys that play good high-level college football that have kind of been on not very good winning football teams, so to speak, as they started their NFL careers. Those are guys, young, experienced guys that have played a lot of football already. Jeff Hatley, the new defensive coordinator there at Green Bay. I'm excited for that energy and just kind of the overall aspect with that. But I don't know specifically about a free agent, so to speak, on a team, but I'd like to see how some of these guys who sat out for the long part of training camp, because there's a wide talk today. I was listening on the Pat McAfee show of J.J. Watt, because a week ago Jared Allen was on there, and Jared Allen said he didn't need 1 rep of training camp, and he could go right out there and hit a quarterback and knock him out of the game that quick. J.J. Watt, on the flip side, wanted the practice time. Obviously, some of the older guys like Trent Williams who sat out, held out, going to get the money, whatever. He's fine to go. Like, he's played enough football. He's a coach on the field, those things. But like a Jamar Chase, those type of guys who've sat out, Brandon Ayuk, yes, they're very talented. Yeah, like they're very talented guys, but they're still young and inexperienced when it comes to the grand scheme of things of being an overall great at their position, which all those guys have a potential to be and are already kind of on that forefront of that. It'll be interesting to see how they mesh. Obviously, all have prior quarterbacks that they've already worked with relationship-wise, but it'll kind of be interesting to see because it's going to be a weird start. The NFL week 1 through week 4 is just a frenzy, all this, so to speak, with the type of football that you see, injuries, all that, bad weather early on, a lot of warm games in bad areas going on right away. But how do some of these guys kind of respond? Because it's interesting to see as a football fan and also a fantasy football owner of multiple teams, kind of seeing how this goes with some of your stud guys. Like Justin Jefferson was a big guy who got paid, still in the same place, but a lot of stuff is shuffled around him. How is that going to pertain with him in Minnesota being an NFC North team with that? I was excited to see how J.J. McCarthy was eventually going to become a starter this year. We're going to have to wait a year on that. Like Bryce said, these storylines are endless right now, but I think it's just kind of interesting to see, in my opinion, truly what some of these big stud guys are who held out rightfully so to get their money, but now are they going to go out and earn it, or are they going to need a little bit of time to kind of get their feet wet again?
Yeah, fair point.
I obviously love the Bears move. I was always, and you guys know, I was hesitant with Caleb Williams just because I felt like we didn't give Fields enough. I felt there was a lot of missing pieces, especially on the offense, coaches, kind of coming in and out. Didn't give him enough. But I was not upset with us getting Caleb Williams. I just know that as a rookie quarterback, you're going to lose some games. Like, some games are going to be lost, and it's going to be because you did something. So Bears fans had to prepare for that. I really like the Rome Budenz pick, although I like the pick.
You wanted to see O-line there, huh?
I wanted to see O-line because O-line, I think, is what ruined Justin Fields. Now, we can talk all day about IQ, accuracy, and I get all of that, but he got sacked one of the most in the league. And I don't see our offensive line really making any huge positive moves in the right direction. So that's still a question mark. But obviously, the firepower we have in offense is insane. So I'm super excited for that. I am very interested. Gannon, you mentioned it with the NFC North team in Minnesota. Getting rid of Kirk Cousins, drafting J.J. McCarthy, him getting injured. Now they're bringing in Sam Darnold, who I don't necessarily think is going to be a terrible quarterback. And I know, he's not had huge success, but, he's kind of been on the worst of the worst and never really given a true opportunity, in my belief, to have, with the Jets. He was backup, I think, last year with the Niners.
Yeah,
so
he was QB2.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Now they got Aaron Jones in there, who's an NFC North guy. That's going to be interesting. Jordan Addison, who I don't think is going to be playing.
And Hawks out for a little while.
Hawks out maybe half the year.
Yep.
6 games.
So it's going to be interesting how that kind of comes to fruition. But I mean, I could go on and on. I think the Falcons is going to be an interesting thing with Kirk Cousins because I like Kirk. He's old. He is coming off a pretty severe, I think, Achilles injury.
Yeah, it was Achilles.
Yeah. But he's got some weapons.
He's got some weapons. I don't know how the O-line, because you're going to need to protect a guy like him because he can't really move. He's always been a pocket guy. But I'm interested to see kind of how every team – I don't think there's one team that I'm looking at that I'm like, I'm interested to see how they do it. I mean, every team I'm interested to see, what's going to happen because every single team – there's been some type of turmoil or some type of new pickup or something that's happened. So I'm excited for pretty much everything. But, of course, my Bears are top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to build off what you said right there, the interesting thing about Sam Darnold going to Minnesota, I think, is the fact that he was with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. Kevin O'Connell, the verbiage remains kind of similar in schematics in the way that those two coordinators, head coaches, kind of dial back and dial off their offense. And I think that will benefit Darnold because he was in a situation where he could soak it up for a year, obviously then switch his team. So the verbiage does change a little bit, but it gets to a sense where like those guys run similar schemes. And I think that will set Darnold up to be the most successful he's ever been. And I mean, he's throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson, so that helps as well. But I would say my favorite move this offseason was exactly what I talked about right away. It was Derrick Henry. Obviously, we know he's aging. Can he hold up? Obviously, in my head, Derrick Henry's a cyborg. He is just simply built different. A guy that's built in a lab. One of one when you think about a running back being able to defy the odds and beat age and be able to still consistently take hits in between the tackles, outside of the tackles with linebackers, corners, safeties. He's just untackable because of how big his stature is. And then you put him in a situation where he's with Lamar Jackson, and regardless of the fact that Derrick Henry's older now, you got to key on Lamar. On defenses, there's always going to be some sort of spy watching Lamar because if he gets out of the pocket, he's the most dangerous running quarterback in the National Football League. But then on top of it, you got to be very wary of when Derrick Henry comes in, second, third down, second and third, manageable. Those 4 yards are going to be quite easy for them to pick up with a guy like Derrick Henry. I think he'll this season be more of a guy, a workhorse in the red zone for them, be that type of guy on third down to help push the sticks. But I do think when you see a guy like Keaton Mitchell come back from injury who got hurt late last season, which sucks because Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry would have been fun to watch immediately. But when Mitchell does get back into position to play, instead of Justice Hill, I think it will be Keaton and Henry together, and that could be nasty. for Baltimore. But anyway, speaking of Baltimore, let's dive into these matchups this week. Obviously, we open up. I just got the Twitter notification and everything. The NFL season opens up just about 24 hours from this moment we are recording. So in 24 hours, there will be a nationally televised NFL football game, and that sounds insane to me. Tonight is Christmas Eve, if you really think about it. Anyway, the Baltimore Ravens open up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Thursday night football to open up the season. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like every year the Chiefs are on Thursday night football opening up the season. Last year was Detroit. Detroit knocks them off. Do you guys think we'll see something similar? Is Kansas City going to get knocked off early again, or are they more prepared this time around to get a Week 1 W?
I think they are prepared to take a loss early on here just because with the inconsistencies with their new playmakers, different type of guys, with Rashid Rice's stuff off the field. Hollywood Brown injury early on is going to help. I think there's a lot more consistency with the offseason through everything with OTAs, training camp, and preseason with the Ravens. And I really wanted to hit on that part too. Like you just talked about it with Derrick Henry. Like this is an unreal opportunity to keep prolonging his career and play high-level running back football with Lamar option, playing option with that way. And also having Zay Flowers. That's a big thing in year 2, in my opinion, that Zay Flowers can really take a big growth here and start to be a bona fide wide receiver for Lamar Jackson and be a weapon in this offense. And it'll be interesting to see because in Tennessee, it just ended up being a crapshoot for Derrick Henry the last couple of years with no quarterback play, no offensive outside help. Like everybody was stacking the box. He was still having big games on a pretty regular basis, but this is something that everybody's eyes are off of him. Yes, people are going to game plan, but he's one of the 3-4 options that the Ravens have going forward. And this is just going to help them control the clock even more, which makes the Ravens even better when Lamar Jackson can run the ball. So now it's going to be in the backfield when you're sending guys in on different coverages and blitzes. What the hell are you going to do when you got these two in the backfield? I mean, you can't tackle Lamar because of how slippery he is and the pure strength and size of a LeBron James-ass guy on a football field. I mean, other than about 3-4 inches, that's what Derrick Henry looks like, in my opinion.
And you can't also forget about the speed in Zay Flowers, too.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's so many different levels and density to this offense that's just fun to watch with the Ravens. That's why I feel like right now, yes, Mahomes might come out and throw for 400 tomorrow with 4 touchdowns and play really well with. We're all like, we wouldn't bat an eye to that because it's Pat Mahomes and the greatness that way. But you saw some rough patches early last year. That doesn't mean they're not going to win 3 in a row. But I think right now I'm probably going to go with the Ravens in this opening matchup. But it's going to be fun to see because you have 2 of the top whatever quarterbacks you want to say, 2 of the top 3-4 guys in the league right now in the quarterback position playing your opening kickoff for the league. Like this is an awesome matchup for the league and everybody tuning in to watch this kind of be, because Thursday Night Football gets a bad rap overall. Obviously they want to have a good matchup the first week and all that, but it's just going to be fun as a sports fan to watch Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson go at it again. Like these are just 2 guys that have dueled it out a lot of times already.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys may be surprised, but I'm going to be going with Baltimore this weekend. I think there is some,
2 for 2, 2 out of 2 so far going with the Ravens. Interesting.
You know, I'm
tired of the norm. I'm tired of picking the damn Chiefs.
No more 3 years in a row.
I have them at +3, so I am betting Ravens +3. Okay. I think it's at Kansas City, so that's going to be tough.
Arrowhead, Red Kingdom.
Yeah, but I also think that, Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl, statistically, you got to go with the numbers. They're that the Super Bowl slump or whatever they call it. I think that's going to play a part. Gannon, you mentioned it with, some of the injuries and just moving parts, and believe it or not, the drama kind of around, I think, plays a part. It may not sound like it, but all this stuff with Travis Kelce and Swift, I just for some reason I look at Baltimore as like the blue chip, like the little brother that's getting beat on constantly. I think they're going to come out big. And you got to remember, Derrick Henry, huge. I think Derrick Henry, other than last year, the dude's never had an injury. Like, he's been an absolute monster. You can always
cyborg. I'm telling you, he's built different.
And you got to remember, Mark Andrews got hurt late last year. Mark Andrews is going to be a huge key for them. I know he was he had that issue because he was in like a car accident, I think, in the offseason. Mm-hmm. I think he's all good to go, but that's going to be a huge weapon for them. They are turning in. They have the potential and the weapons like Kansas City. Baltimore's defense is absolutely insane. There's nothing that changed with Baltimore's defense. And you add a Derrick Henry, and you got Lamar, you got a healthy Mark Andrews, you got Zay Flowers. It's going to be tough. I'm going to go with the Ravens, but Kansas City, they're going to three-peat. I'm just putting that out there. But I'm taking Baltimore in week 1.
Love it. I am going to go the opposite of kind of the conversation we had last postseason, this past season, where I was the one kind of against the Chiefs. Didn't think they had a shot to make the playoffs at the back end. Thought it was going to be ugly. Didn't think they'd get it done. Well, they did. And I'm just not going to bank against them anymore. And obviously, there'll be certain games and matchups where I will think the other team has a shot to beat them. But in week 1's matchup, there's just so much noise behind the going back to back to back and the Swift and the Kelsey talk.
Another ring ceremony.
Ring ceremony, the Kelsey brothers signing their $100+ million contract with their podcast, which shout out to them. They do fantastic work off the field as well. But I think compared to what Carter said, I'm going to use it on the flip end. I think it's motivation, and I think it's motivation to keep going, to keep pushing, to truly stamp their legacy. And who knows how many years Kelsey even has left as far as being a tight end in the National Football League with his age and getting banged up. And we saw early on last season, he didn't look the part. It took a while to get going. But I do think that the overall, the Chiefs, I think, are the better football team still. I think the Ravens added talent, and I think they're right there, and I think they can beat them. If these teams play each other twice or it's another playoff matchup, I think it could go either way. But week 1, heading into the season, I think the Chiefs being at home, using the noise as motivation, can go in all the right direction for the Chiefs to pull out the victory in this game. But let's move on. I want to kind of do a little segment. Let's do pick and get. I know Gannon's going to want to talk a little bit about the Packers. Carter, we could talk about the Bears, and I'll talk about my Cowboys. But those other matchups, just for time's sake, to kind of keep things short and sweet, let's pick a team after this Packers-Eagles matchup. Pick a team that's going to win and give me about a sentence as to why that team is a lock to win. And then at the back end, if Carter's got some DraftKings hard rock bets that he wants to lay down, we can discuss those as well. But let's get into this Green Bay-Philly matchup. Gannon, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting to see. Obviously, we know what the Eagles are going to do. They got a lot of different things to be. I'm interested to see how Saquon fits into this offense because I think it could be a big utilization for him, just exposing them and making them even better, kind of helping Jalen Hurts, taking some pressure off of his shoulders, so to speak, on some things. Because obviously in the or out on the outside with their weapons that they have with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, like they're stacked. Like we already understand that. Biggest thing is I want to see is how the Packers come out. That they've had a lot of changes. Jordan Love got paid. The defense has a new coordinator. There's a lot of new faces there, young guys around. There's a new running back, Josh Jacobs, in the building. And again, this whole roster is really under the age of 30. So how experienced will this last year from them with their ups and downs, going through the playoffs, not really having a chance to get in, being 500 team early on. They dropped some games early on this last season for them that I think are very winnable. It comes down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Now will they be able to use that experience to be a little bit more mature in some of these close games going forward? Because hopefully it's going to be a dogfight come Friday night. That's what I'm hoping for as a Packers fan and a sports fan with that, because I think the Packers are ready to go. They've played enough good football. They have enough talent on there. The biggest thing is on the offensive side, I think we're going to run the ball a lot more than people expect. And I know I said this last year, kind of a key success for I think why the Packers could be a very good football team again this year is utilizing Josh Jacobs in this run game. Obviously, they have the four-headed monster with the wide receiving crew. They don't like to name a wide receiver one. It's kind of the spur of the moment. Who's healthy, who's getting the hot hand, which I like because you don't really have all these young guys kind of young bucking and kind of wanting to do their thing to kind of be the top guy. Everybody's out there getting their reps, getting their routes. But how can they slow it down and kind of control the game clock, so to speak, with stuff, and then allowing the defense hopefully to kind of be a deciding factor and being a positive thing for the Green Bay Packers going forward, something that's been a very lackluster part of the team and the organization for a lot of years that have hurt the team in a lot of big games of just, hey, we get one more stop here or there. Can we get one more turnover there? Can we get somebody to stop on a fourth down? That kind of makes a lot of it does help when it comes down to the stretch run of trying to win a football game. So this new young guy with Quay Walker coming into his multiple third year here, Devontae Wyatt, another defensive tackle, Lucas Van Ness, a lot of these guys, Preston Smith's getting older on the defensive side also. But I'm ready to see Xavier McKinney and Kevin Bullard in the secondary. These guys are going to be flying around hitting people. Edrin Cooper is going to be kind of, I think, a little bit of a project. I know Bryce likes him. We'll see how he goes with some of the training camp stuff. or how it went with that. It was some up and down stuff. They're trying to get him a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical on some tackling things that I've seen. But these two guys in the secondary both fly around are ball hawks, and it's just somebody that wants to be dominant. And I'm excited to watch the whole Packers special teams, offense, and defense, which I don't really like to say or have said in the past years. So obviously the Packers are going to win. Everybody knows that. That's why I didn't say it.
Well, you didn't hear what I have to say.
Pick and get, Carter. Pick and get. Keep it short and sweet.
Is this what the team that I like this week?
Yep. Pick your Packers or Eagles. Pick and get, and give me a sentence as to why that team is going to win.
Eagles. One, because I hate the Packers, but more importantly, two, how it ended and how good they started, Philly, and how terrible they ended up. It's sort of the opposite of Green Bay. They started, not good at all, and then they had a run. I think Philly losing all those games and people down on them, I think Philly's going to come out and win. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout or it's going to be an easy win because the Packers are tough this year, but I think they're going to get it done. There's just too many weapons there, I think, on the offensive end. I don't care how good of a defense you have. Being able to stop Jalen Hurts and Saquon, plus you got obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. You got some weapons there. I just think of how they ended it last year. They're going to come out and they're going to, want to prove that was just kind of a one-off. So I'm taking Philly.
Well, that was, a matter of fact, way more than a sentence. That turned into a whole 2 paragraphs. But I will say I'm taking Green Bay, and my reasoning is because I believe they are the team to beat in the NFC this season.
Heard it here. Stamp it.
Move on to the next game. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the newly crowned quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, Kirk Cousins and company. Pittsburgh Steelers at Atlanta Falcons. Gannon, pick and get.
I'm going Atlanta Falcons here because I'm trusting Kirk Cousins and their offense over the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson, who will be exiting out of the starting quarterback within the first month. There's it. There's a sentence. You want me to talk more?
No, that's
I'm going
perfect.
with the Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons because of Kirk Cousins with the chains. They got a good offense.
Kirko Chains.
Kirko Chains
in the building.
It's Kirk.
All right, so he didn't even need a sentence on that one. It just went from Falcons to Kirko Chains, and that's all you needed to know. I'm going to take the Falcons in this matchup as well, and my response to that is I think Bijan Robinson has a massive game and is a major factor in this Atlanta Falcons offense this season. Next game, we got the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Buffalo Bills, the Stephon Diggs Buffalo Bills. So it's a little bit different this season in Buffalo. What do we got? Pick and get.
This is one of my favorite matchups, I think, the whole time because Carter hit on the Arizona side with Kyler Murray's potential to kind of be the comeback player of the year. But I'm still going with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills at home. Bills Mafia to start this year. Josh Allen finds a way to will his team to a victory.
All I got to say, lock of the week, Cardinals. That's all I got to say.
All I got to say.
Murray.
Hey, you think Marvin goes crazy or what?
Yes. So I'm taking the Cardinals. The Bills have nothing. I'm sorry. Obviously, I'm a big Josh Allen fan, but I'm going with the Cards.
It's bad up there. It's bad.
It's bad. Go Cards.
I am taking the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Buffalo Bills because I think this is a revenge season for Kyler Murray to prove all of his doubters wrong and stamp that he is a top 15 NFL quarterback this year and beyond. Next game, I believe it was the Bears. My screen turned off on me. So I'll let Carter talk a little bit on this one. Yes, we got the Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears visiting the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field. One day it probably will be a highly renovated new stadium, but today it's not. Who do we got? Pick and get. Gannon and then Carter rock with it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with the Bears in this one. I think it's going to be an ugly football game, so to speak, but I think Caleb Williams' playmaking ability come the fourth quarter down the stretch. He's going to have a big play. He's going to have a signature moment to kind of write his script early on with his NFL career here. I think a little spin out to the outside, hit DJ Moore over the top for a little game-winning touchdown. But I think it's going to be kind of a crapshoot game, but I think Caleb Williams is just better than the whole offense that Tennessee has.
I obviously got the Bears, but when it comes to the DraftKings or the Hard Rock stuff, I'm actually going to go with Tennessee plus the points. The reason being is I think there is a lot of hype with the Bears, and it's warranted. But I think people are overlooking Tennessee because they do have some great weapons. They got Spears and Pollard. You know, you mentioned it, Carlson. They brought in Ridley.
Calvin Ridley. They're without D-Hop. They're without D-Hop right now.
They got Tyler Boyd, which I think is a pretty good pickup. But I'm going with the Bears, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. That's why I'm taking Titans plus the money, because Bears can still win. I don't think it's going to be a huge blowout.
All right. I will say in this matchup, I am going to take the Chicago Bears. I do think my answer to that is that Caleb Williams comes out guns blazing. I think there will be hiccups in the season, quite a few of them. I think they're warranted. Expectations need to just tamper down a little bit because Chicago Bears fans, when Fields got drafted, they went up too fast. So just temper your expectations, but the Bears are going to be okay. All right, next matchup, we got the New England Patriots, who we talked about, completely revamped, probably the worst team in football. And they're taking on Joe Burrow, returning to the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals with this. I'm excited to see how Joe Burrow can play, hopefully healthy for a full season, and the greatness that we can watch with him kind of go through everything and be injury-free.
Bengals, I don't even know if I need a sentence to Pat's talk. Yeah, I think Bengals is a lock. I mean, I don't see any way the Patriots have any type of answer for the Bengals.
Yeah, we don't necessarily give betting advice, but if we were to give betting advice, I think you're probably safe to bet your mortgage on the Cincinnati Bengals against the New England Patriots. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously. I'm not going to give a reason because I think the reason's obvious. I'm going to leave it with a question. Is Jamar Chase going to play all 17 games for the Cincinnati Bengals right away in Week 1? I'm interested to see because I don't know if that contract gets done before Week 1, but he did practice on Wednesday. All right, next matchup, we got the Houston Texans, who made a deep playoff run this past year with rookie C.J. Stroud, taking on the Indianapolis Colts, who have their young quarterback, Anthony Richardson, back in the fold. They got some weapons, drafted Adonai Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor, obviously, Michael Pittman. It's a young squad in Indianapolis looking to figure things out. I know the draft hasn't necessarily gone their way the past couple seasons. A lot of guys that ended up cut that were out of this draft class already. Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts. What do we got?
I really like this matchup because I think it's going to be a 4-2 kind of for potential good division matchups in the AFC South going forward for a lot of years with Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud going at it. But Anthony Richardson played really well before he got hurt last year. Obviously, this very small sample size running the football and throwing the football. But because of C.J. Stroud and that offensive core and the weapons and the depth that they have, I'm looking for Stephon Diggs to come in and be an immediate impact for the Texans. Now it's going to be interesting to see kind of how everybody falls into line with the different tiers of the three-headed monster that they have with that wide receiving crew. But I'm looking for Diggs to really get acclimated with Stroud right away.
Yeah, good points. I mean, Houston's got so many weapons, it's insane. I'm going with the Colts because it is at home. It's a good division matchup. They got Richardson back. There's too much hype. Anytime there's so much hype around a team, I'm always reluctant, especially Week 1. So fair I'm point. Going with the Colts.
Okay. I think that's a very good, fair point. The fact that we can give these predictions, talk about all these teams, but at the end of the day, it is Week 1. A lot changes, a lot shifts. Teams that were very good last year may be middle-of-the-road teams this year. But I am going to roll with the Houston Texans in this matchup. I believe in the hype. I think they got better this offseason, obviously adding Diggs. That defense is incredibly young, and I'm banking on their head coach. I think that's the number one reason as to why I'm taking them over the Indianapolis Colts. All right, next matchup, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to Miami to take on the Miami Dolphins. Pick and get.
This will be interesting because I think this is a very big and crucial year for Trevor Lawrence and kind of his trajectory of his career here. A lot of money's been paid to him, put in his pocket. A lot of people have kind of fallen asleep with this. I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this pans out, a Florida matchup kind of early on. But I'm looking for Tua, high flying right away. A big week from Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I need Jalen Waddle for fantasy purposes. All 3 leagues he's on the roster that way too, so kind of probably why I'm pulling for it a little bit. But I think Tua is going to have a big year here. I think some of the stuff with people not saying this, they just have Mike McDaniels locked up. I think he's their head coach now for 5 more years plus in Miami. The culture that he is establishing there is why I think the Miami Dolphins are going to get to the forefront and make a playoff game and win one this year.
So Jacksonville and Gainesville kind of by each other, right? Sort of. You got the Jaguars, you got the Florida Gators, you got Miami. Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins.
And there's a big difference between Miami and Florida.
So the Jags are the Florida Gators.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Hurricanes
I like that. Because they kicked
the
their
Miami
ass
Dolphins
last weekend.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Miami by a mile.
All right. I am going to roll as well with the Miami Dolphins. I think my biggest reason is just the fact that these running backs that Miami has. You talk about Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. Sorry if I butcher that name, Achane. And then the Rook, Jalen Wright as well. Fast, explosive. And then
everything.
To build on top of that, the receivers are just as explosive and fast. Tyreek, Waddle. The speed will kill the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next game, we got the Carolina Panthers heading to the New Orleans Mardi Gras Saints. What's going down with the Saints?
This will be interesting because this is the matchup.
I mean, you could argue, we talked about New England being the worst team in football. Is Carolina, are they a little better, or is Carolina, still going to be that bottom 3 team?
Yeah, this is just a bad football game that I'm not going to be tuning in to watch at all this weekend.
No, but this is a bad football game.
We're going to go New Orleans just because Carolina's that bad. Like I don't have any other comments on this game.
This is your typical should-be Thursday night football game is what it is.
Yeah, this is the typical I do something else in place of it and see if I have fantasy players going.
Turn it on in the background.
But I try and not get guys from bad organizations because
this is a good 3 o'clock game where you take your nap in between.
Yeah. And hopefully it's good when you wake up in the 4th.
Yeah.
Find out Alvin Kamara had three rushing touchdowns and put you on top.
Yeah. I'm not watching this game. I'm not putting any wagers on this game. But I think I would go with Carolina because I don't think the Saints are that great at all. I think Derek Carr is not the greatest quarterback. And I think Bryce Young can be good. He has the potential to be good. They did add some weapons. I'm a huge fan of the Rook there, as you know, is Xavier Legette. Not just because how he talks, but the dude
you just like his voice or what?
I like his voice, but he can ball too, and
he can play some football.
He's a stud. He's a good football player.
Yep. And I think Carolina. I think this is a terrible game, but I think Carolina can get New Orleans at home.
I'm gonna roll with the Saints. I think it's a crapshoot of a game, like we've already discussed. I just think the Saints are the better of badness, I guess, for the lack of better term. The better of badness are the New Orleans Saints in this matchup. But let's move into the next game, another 12 o'clock game with the Minnesota Vikings heading to New York to take on the New York Giants. Kind of another dud of a game, you'd think, but this is also a game where, you look up and all of a sudden it's 34-32 with 2 minutes left in the game because these are just teams that you don't know what to expect. But I think this game could either be very ugly or kind of high-flying with an exciting finish in the 12 o'clock window.
Yeah, I could see it going back and forth. I totally agree with you there. I don't see it being 30-some to 30-some with these two offenses that we have going on, so to speak.
Not.
But there's still some hope in me that Daniel Jones can play some football. I might sound a little crazy on this take, but
he has to.
Dude, that's the thing.
He's gone.
He's terrible.
They have a couple more weapons there. It'd be interesting to see how Devin Singletary runs the ball there with him being the RB1 in that backfield there. It's just, dude, I don't know what to go with this. I'm probably going to have to lean, even though I want to see Daniel Jones, I'm going to go the Vikings with this, and I think Aaron Jones is going to have a big day.
I'm going to go Vikings because of Justin Jefferson. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go the Vikings in this matchup as well. I'm very excited to watch Malik Neighbors play football and see what he has with the Giants. Sucks that he's in our division, but I do think Darnold is honestly bold take in itself. I think Darnold's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, honest to God.
Yeah, it's not.
And the run game's better. Yeah. Very, very boring. matchup here with these two teams, but yeah, Vikings. Las Vegas Raiders are heading to the Los Angeles Chargers to take on Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Herbert is officially good to go for week 1. Off the injury, he's good to go. Obviously, it's a little shakeup, I think, with this Chargers team. You know, they lost Keenan Allen, they lost Mike Will.
Eckler.
Eckler's gone. Injury-riddled, older guys. So the veterans have kind of moved away, and there's not much passing weapons for Herbert to throw the football. And they also hired Greg Roman to be their OC, who is known to run his running backs into the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see how Herbert, I think, fits into this puzzle. But
no, it's a very good point because it's the playmaking ability, the spur of the moment things when Justin Herbert's good, kind of control the offense, just going with the flow of things. That's kind of not how Harbaugh coaches and established stuff with his coaching tenure. How Michigan wants stuff. It's a tough-nosed football team that runs the football very hard. They utilize the offensive line. They want to pound it down your throat. They want to control the clock. This will be a little bit different, kind of the game management of can Justin Herbert kind of flip some of those things. And at the end of the day, does he have enough weapons to throw to? Because there's been a lot of people in and out with that door in the wide receiving core there with the Chargers, so to speak. But I'm going to go with the Chargers because the Raiders are the Raiders. Like, obviously, it'll be cool to see Antonio Pierce kind of coaching that team and kind of having a full slate of him being a head coach and just what his energy and mantra can bring to that organization as they're trying to kickstart something there. But at the end of the day, I'm still going with the Chargers because Justin Herbert is still the best guy on the field.
I'm going to Raiders. We got Antonio Pierce, and you got Minshew. I mean, he's going to sling the ball, and I think that's what the Raiders are going to need this year is just air stuff out. They we saw what they look like at the end of the year. They got still a great defense with Max Crosby, who's one of the best in the league, and I don't know if this secondary with the Chargers is being able to handle Devontae Adams and handle them just throwing it all over the field. I don't think Minshew's a terrible pickup for them. I'm going with the Raiders.
I think in this matchup, like everything I kind of talked about early on with the Chargers, it leads me to believe that I think the Raiders can make week 1 a surprise W because I think the Chargers are the team where you'd be like, okay, the Chargers should beat the Raiders, and I think the Raiders are a poor football team. But Antonio Pierce brought in a ton of head coaching experience on his staff, and I think they're going to be prepared for week 1, and I do think Gardner Minshew is going to be slinging the football because this is his probably his last opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's Baker Mayfield-esque to me where he joined Tampa and kind of let things go, let things loose, and got rewarded with the contract. All right, let's move on to the Denver Broncos, starting a rookie at quarterback, Bo Nix, traveling to Seattle to take on the Geno Smith, new head coach, Seattle Seahawks.
A little NFC West matchup start the season off. It will be interesting to see because Sean Payton was high since the draft on Bo Nix. He had a good preseason. He's played a lot of football. He's seen a lot of different things. He's been in a lot of different programs, a lot of different schemes, all those things. Still a rookie getting his first NFL start on the road with the 12th man against Seattle. I'm still going to go with the Seahawks in this. I still think Geno Smith still got enough in the tank. They have a good wide receiving core there. Yes, Tyler Lockett and DJ Metcalf aren't getting any younger. But I think Jackson Smith-Njigba was really due to break out for the sophomore year this year and have a big-time impact on that offense. And I kind of want to see and think Geno Smith's going to get back to where he was 2 years ago throwing the football.
Yeah, I'm taking Seattle. They got a really good offense. Still a lot of question marks with the Broncos, although I don't think it's as bad as they're going to be as they were last year. But I really like Seattle. And, yeah, you got the receivers. I really like the running core.
Yeah.
I think Walker's a dog, and then you get Charbonnet in there too. I think it's a pretty nice 1-2. So I'm going with Seattle.
Bruising backfield for sure.
Yeah, I'm going with Seattle.
I am going to take Seattle as well in this matchup simply because of the rookie Bo Nix. I just don't necessarily think I don't want to say he's not ready for the moment, but I think the veteran-led Seattle Seahawks are primed to win week 1 at home. Then we move on to the Dallas Cowboys, heading to the Cleveland Browns to take on a very tough team. And I will go right away, just get my 2 cents out of the way. I was having a conversation with Gannon on my way home from work today before we record this, and there's just not a lot of excitement for me as a Cowboys fan this season. And That's even after CeeDee Lamb finally got his money. Don't get me wrong, I'm beyond ecstatic that happened. But in my own mind, I'm not happy. I'm not excited until I know that our quarterback is set in place for years to come. And I don't want to think about the alternatives, what we should do draft-wise, who we should trade for, what free agent we should pick up. But here's the bottom line. If Dak Prescott does not sign before the season starts or early on in the season, if he's even willing to negotiate, he's probably gone. He's probably a Las Vegas Raider. If Will Levis doesn't pan out, he could be a Tennessee Titan. He could be a New York Giant if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out. And those all become realistic possibilities within the next 5 days. And my take is if Dak's gone, the Cowboys not only eat $40 million in dead cap charge next season on the 2025 books, but they have 0 quarterbacks on the roster. Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, both free agents. So that leaves them with 0 quarterbacks. You're already paying Dak 40, so guess what? You go out and sign 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks, draft one. How much is that equivalent to? Probably around $60 million, which is what you could just pay Dak and get that problem out of the way right away. So either way, you're paying $60 million for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So get it done. Pay your franchise quarterback. They do not grow on trees. Just ask the Las Vegas Raiders. Just ask the Tennessee Titans. Just ask the New York Giants. Ultimately, to get into this matchup, I think it's hard for me to even talk football with this team because it's nonsense. It's a circus. But I think the Cleveland Browns have the better defense. But I'm interested to see in this matchup offensively who comes out not only with more points, but who looks more effective, who can hold the football. Because I think if the Cowboys win the time of possession, I think they win this football game. But I'm also interested to see what form of Deshaun Watson do we get this season? Because he's back from the injury. Don't really know if he's 100% healthy. We know he's probably going week 1, and that's all fine. But Deshaun Watson, the last 2 years or year and a half, has looked like a year 2 quarterback. There has been a tremendous amount of decline after his year of being away from football, and I just don't know if he can come back and be what he once was with the Houston Texans. And I think that hurts the Browns' chances of being a successful team. And that's why I think Dallas can go in to Cleveland and steal a victory, because ultimately I think the Browns across the board have dealt with a lot less change than the Cowboys have, and they're relying a lot less or they're relying more on veterans than the Cowboys are relying on. The Cowboys have a lot of rookies, young guys that are going to be thrown into the fire immediately. But I do think Dak and CeeDee Lamb, if they're on the same page, I think they can steal a victory in Cleveland.
I like that. I think the biggest thing is, like you said, I feel like the defense is better on the Cleveland side. I think the more well-rounded team, but at the end of the day, you still got to have your quarterback show up and play and make plays at the end of the day. That's the reason why I'm going to go with Dallas, just because I still think Dak and CD, obviously, they haven't played together throughout the preseason, but they already had their chemistry there. I'm just going with the playmaking ability of Dak Prescott with the Cowboys. Hey, they're a regular season team. They win a lot of games, so why not take them in another one here?
3 straight seasons, 12 wins. Go ahead and laugh, Carter. Go ahead and laugh.
Yeah, Dak's not the guy. I'm just going to put that out there. But I will say, I'm going with the Browns. I'm going with the Browns. It is at the dog pound, baby. It's a tough place to play. Those fans are fired up. I think it does hurt, though, that Chubb isn't playing.
Yeah.
I think when Chubb comes back, I still think Chubb, even though he had a pretty horrific injury, that guy was made in a lab, just like Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You saw his injury in college, which was awful, and then he comes in, he just dominates every single year. So it hurts not having them. I'm curious to see what Jerome Ford does at running back for them. I'm going with the Browns. They're at home. They have weapons. I think their defense, you can make an argument, is better than Dallas. And if Flacco can do that, Deshaun Watson can. We know his potential. Will he be able to do it? That's another question. But I think this is a place you don't want to be with Dallas, especially on the road versus Cleveland. So I'm going with the Cleveland at the dog pound.
I think it's scary if you're talking about how many years has Deshaun Watson been in the league now? I can't even.
Probably 7 or 8.
It's scary. It's scary when you're talking about a 7th or 8th year quarterback potential.
Oh, no. 18 did he come? 2018, right?
Was that when it was?
So 6.
He was drafted. Yeah. He was drafted the year that the Bears took Mitch.
Yep.
5'6".
Yeah.
So he's got potential, but that only goes so far.
And not to mention, it is Tom Brady's debut in the Fox booth, so it's going to be interesting all around. I think it's two
Rest
tough
in peace,
teams.
Greg Olson.
Yeah, they did him dirty.
So dirty.
So dirty. All right, move on. Washington Commanders, new head coach Dan Quinn, new quarterback Jaden Daniels. They are traveling to Tampa Bay, where Baker Mayfield gets rewarded for his good year in Tampa Bay with a new contract. Obviously, you still got Mike Evans, who re-upped with them. Still got Chris Godwin. I think it's an older team, so I'm kind of interested to see which way you guys lean with this matchup.
No, I'm excited for Jaden Daniels. I saw him a lot. I watched a lot of his stuff during the preseason. Obviously, the injury bug. He's older, a lot of different things. But again, another experienced guy like Bo Nix, who's played a lot of football, seen a lot of different things, beaten a lot of good teams, been in a lot of high leverage situations already. I'm excited with this. I wasn't quite sure with the Jahan Dotson trade of like getting rid of another weapon for those guys and sending him to a team in the division with the Eagles. That was a little bit weird in my estimation with that trade, but I'm excited to see Jaden Daniels play here. I might be a little bit off with this. I told Bryce this before. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL, and I think he's going to come out and shock some people this week. It's just inconsistencies. One of Baker Mayfield and his quarterback play over the years. Obviously, the money helps him and all that, but like Bryce said, also with the age with the wide receiving crew of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, how long is that going to be able to hold up over 17 games? I'm just not quite sure. But that doesn't really have anything to do with this matchup, but I'm still going to go with the Commanders.
Talked about the Tampa Bay Bucks being an older team. I think I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders in this matchup with Jaden Daniels. The electricity behind him as a quarterback, behind Dan Quinn moving there to Washington, I think they're going to be able to sneak a W in at Tampa. We move on to the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions.
Thing, Carlson. I had some mic issues. I'm going with Tampa Bay. I think their offense is still really powerful with the guys that you had mentioned in receiving core with Rashad White there. And it is in Tampa. It is hotter than hell in the summer in Tampa, as Ruckman knows. I think that does play an issue. I know Jaden Daniels, coming from LSU, understands that he's played in the heat. I think that goes I think a lot of people forget that when you go down to the South teams, it is miserable outside in the heat. I think that plays a part. I don't know how the Commanders are. I just don't think they're that great of a team. I think Jaden Daniels can have some potential. I just don't see them getting it done on the road.
What's it? And for anyone that doubts Carter, he knows well. He's in the area. I won't tell you exactly where he's at, but he's in the area. He knows what the weather is like. So, Washington's heading into a hostile environment in Tampa Bay. But Los Angeles Rams, Detroit Lions, pick and get.
Yeah, it's another return for Matthew Stafford, another game back in Detroit where he made his hay with his career. I think this is going to be another victory, though, for the Detroit Lions with this one. I think it's going to be a lot of energy, a lot of buzz. I know Budenz says you kind of get scared sometimes of teams with recency bias of kind of maybe being good right away and kind of keeping that mojo, especially after a prior season and turning it over to a new one. But I think with Dan Campbell and company, with that energy, the locker room, the environment that they've created and established even before when they were winning football games a couple of years ago, he gets those guys to buy in, and that's hard with professionals with a lot of money, a lot of ego, and a lot of just different things on the table there. So with that reason and that, Jared Goff, the weapons, the Motor City, like they're kicking. I'm expecting another big season. I don't want to see it. Being a Packers fan in the NFC North, I know Budenz doesn't want to see them kick a lot of butt again because they are deep from top to bottom, but I'm going to have the Lions in this one.
Yeah,
I didn't even – before Carter goes, I just want to say I didn't even realize like that these two teams were matching up in week one. That's fun.
Yeah, I know.
That's an exciting match.
To end the week. That's the last one, too.
We got Monday night. There's Sunday
Monday.
night.
Oh, no, they're the Sunday night game. Yeah.
I'm waiting all day for Sunday night. Monday night will come and go. It is what it is. That matchup, Rodgers will be back, so we'll get into that.
Yeah, that'll be. Yeah, you're going to want to watch that.
Yeah.
Rams, Lions.
I think this is a tough matchup. I really like Detroit. I know I said Kansas City to win. I did sprinkle a little future on Detroit to win the Super Bowl because I think they have what it takes.
Yeah.
However, people are sleeping on the Rams this year. I think, having Kyron Williams there in the backfield, ND guy, by the way, and you got Puka Nacua, and people are sleeping on Cup for whatever reason, even in fantasy. Cup is slipping, and I don't know why, because the guy is a stud. And it's going to be interesting to see how the defense adjusts with Aaron Donald retiring. I think that's a big thing for the Rams, but I'm going to go with the Rams to win this game in Detroit.
I'm as well going to go with the Los Angeles Rams as well. I think Stafford's entering that back end of his career, right? Where I mentioned Dak Prescott. So if he ain't get signed by the Cowboys, that's another team where you start to look at where the quarterback situation's going with the Rams. But now, right now, this very second is the time for the Rams to cash in and go win another Super Bowl. I think they have the pieces to do it. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. They drafted Blake Corum. You got Kyron Williams, who was good for them in the backfield last season. It's a very talented and very well-coached football team, and I think they're a better football team than the Detroit Lions, and I think they'll get this win. So our last matchup of the Week 1 slate is the New York Jets traveling to the Bay Area to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who finally get a deal done with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, who is now back at the facility. They are practicing. They will ramp up and should be good to go for Week 1. Aaron Rodgers is returning. Pick it and get it.
Yeah, no, this will be fun to see. I mean, I'm excited to watch Aaron Rodgers in a different uniform with a different team, especially after last year, all the headlines, all the buildup, and then the fallout with that was just brutal to watch as a sports fan and a guy who's a lifelong Packer. But Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, that's really all you have to say with this matchup, and I think it's going to be a perennial theme with the matchups as San Francisco's won a lot of games over the last couple of years. Yes, we'll see some of the clock management, some of the gamesmanship with Brock Purdy over the course of time. Am I sold yet? No. Will it happen? I don't think so, but we're kind of going to see working through some of those things right now. But it's a Shanahan offense. Like, this is something that has been ingrained in these guys' head over the time. A lot of these players have become successful once they got a part of this offensive system. So I'm only going to expect them to kind of keep taking this more so. And there's so many question marks with the New York Jets, not only with the product on the field, but the front office, the coaching staff, if everything kind of, so to speak, crap hits the fan this season, I feel like everything's going to be gone there. I could see Aaron Rodgers getting released, getting money paid up to him. This will be a very interesting season with how the Jets play out, and it's all going to really fall on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders.
Nope.
I'm going to go with the Jets on Monday night. I think the build-up with Rodgers coming back, having that weapon in Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson now having an actual quarterback that knows how to throw the ball, I think that's going to be huge for the Jets. Also, I think what's overlooked is, Rodgers is sort of going back home, if you will. He's from California. There was a lot of talk of him, when he left the Packers, of him wanting to go out to California, them not kind of, regardless of what I think it might have been the Niners that he wanted to go to originally. But with him, I feel like he's got something to prove, especially with the off-the-field antics that we've seen from Rodgers. Once he left Green Bay, it kind of, exploded a little bit more, and he's got a lot of controversy around him. I think, this is a time where we've seen Rodgers excel in the regular season. We won't talk about postseason, Ruckman, but in regular season, Rodgers
still got a ring. Still got a ring. I was like 10 years old, but he still got a ring. And I think Rodgers is going to be a huge asset, healthy this year. I'm going to go with the Jets on the road.
I'm going to roll with the San Francisco 49ers in this matchup. I think guys like Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, they're pissed off. They got their money. They got their contracts reworked. And I think it's still an ultra-talented juggernaut of a football team with the San Francisco 49ers, who just haven't been able to get it done. But look for them to be a very, very good football team this year. And I'm not ready to commit to Aaron Rodgers yet, having missed the whole season. But all right, I want to wrap
40
this.
years old.
Yeah. I want to wrap this show up with one last little thing called Do It for the Socials. Gannon, Carter, I want you guys to give me one or two quick, bold takes. I don't care what NFL team it is, if it's a coach, if it's a winning and loss record, if it's a division, if it's your top 5 football teams. Give me a bold take and do it for the socials.
A bold take.
I can
Carter,
go
you
ahead
can
and run
go.
with
Yeah,
mine.
if you want. Obviously, if you had the question, you probably have an idea since we just got hit with it,
Yeah, I gave it to him last second, put him on the spot. But I got two
like,
of
what
them.
are we doing?
I'm going to start off. I already kind of sprinkled one in there, so I'll run with that one right away. I talked about the Packers being the team to beat in the NFC this year. I'll give you my top 5 right now heading into week 1. I still think it's way too early to kind of judge it, but ultimately I think this is how it lays out. I got the Packers being the best team in the NFC, the 49ers second, Rams third, Lions 4, and Eagles 5. Those are my top 5 teams in the NFC heading into the season, and where I kind of think things shake out and sprinkle in throughout the season. My other bold take is I think CeeDee Lamb wins Offensive Player of the Year this season. You guys ready? That give you enough time to think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously so detailed for stuff that we got no idea what we're going to do going forward. But no, obviously I like a lot of stuff. I'm just going to pick 2 teams, and one for the NFC, one from the AFC, kind of some dark horse teams that I think can maybe make a wild card run here, maybe make a little playoff noise, and have some quarterbacks that need to kind of answer some question marks. I think we've hit on it already. One is Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They still have some pieces around him there. Will there be something there? There's continuity with Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning head coach who has had a pedigree of developing quarterbacks. Can Lawrence get to another level? And then vice versa with Kyler Murray, like Carter talked about earlier with Andy Gannon out there and those different types of things. What does that offense look like? Because that could be very scary if some of those guys could get involved in that offense with Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, and then the run game there. So those are 2 things that I feel like teams who could get to that 10, 11 win threshold with a good year, if some of these younger quarterbacks who have been proven good guys before, can they find that juice and maybe take it to the next level? That's what I got.
You ready?
Let's hear it.
Caleb Williams, MVP.
I knew that was coming.
Caleb Williams, MVP. I don't think it's been done since Joe I think it was Joe Brown. With the God, what's his name? I'm
You talking about Jim Brown?
Jim Brown. I think it hasn't been done since Jim Brown rookie year. Said Joe Brown. Same thing.
No, it's just been a little while.
Tomato.
Joe or Jim, whatever. I think Caleb Williams. I mean, it's a big take. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But I think it's worth talking about because of the weapons that he does have in Chicago. There's not a lot of rookies that come in that have the weapons. Even Stroud, I don't think had the weapons his rookie year that Caleb Williams has his rookie year. There's a lot of buzz in Chicago. Chicago is a huge sports town. Can he live up to the hype? I think he can. So my bold take is Caleb Williams for MVP.
Love to hear it. Anyways, that is all we got for you tonight. I hope every one of you enjoy week 1 of laying around on the couch, sports betting, eating food, watching your fantasy football team get absolutely crushed by your best friend, and moving on into the next work week. But sit down, enjoy a football game. We hope you enjoyed listening to this one. Make sure to like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Week 1 of the National Football League 2024 season.